So I believe we're live now. And I'm really pleased to be here, actually, because this is my first ever live broadcast. I've started a little bit early, just because, well, I'll be honest, I was a bit excited, actually. So I thought I would start a little bit early, and I would get people, I guess, in the virtual audience, I guess it is. And it's building already, up to 78, which is fantastic. So that's really good, and we're really pleased that you've all joined us. And yeah, give us a wave, I guess, is what you'd normally ask at this stage. I hope you're all well, and we're just waiting for our guest Rena Simon to join us. And she, of course, you will all know if you read. Oh, I've just turned. There you go. Look, you can tell I'm practicing. I've just turned the camera around by mistake. There I am, back again. And you will know Rena, who is just. If you read Grand Design's magazine, because she is a contributor. Rena, hello, how are you?
Hi. Yeah, good, thank you. And you?
I'm very good, thank you. Very good. I'm just organising my. Oh, there you go. Volume up. So I can hear. So how are you? You all right?
Yeah, good, thanks. Have you had a good day?
Busy, crazy busy actually. It's really weird, isn't it? That in this kind of lockdown when everybody was worried about, work and what they would be doing, it seems even busier. I don't know about you.
No, yeah, I feel exactly the same. I think because we've got the added pressure now of kind of entertaining the girls, I just feel like I don't stop.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So of course you got three girls, haven't you?
yeah, yeah. They're
Yeah.
really little, about the same age as yours.
They are, and mine are a challenge. But I've managed to be able to kind of just palm that responsibility off to my wife. she's doing the homeschooling, and even though it's Easter, but we've not told them that actually. So we're still actually homeschooling them. It's probably a bit naughty, a bit mean of us, but
I
yeah,
think that's a good plan.
yeah.
We did 2 weeks of homeschooling, and so now we're just kind of having a rest, and I've let them just be wild and feral this week.
That sounds fantastic. That sounds really good fun. I'd love to be wild and feral actually for a week.
Yeah, no, I know exactly.
So we've got quite a few viewers already. Just to let you guys know, we're going to start in about 2 minutes, at about 8:20. And what we're going to be talking about today is, as well as Rena's project, which she'll talk about in greater detail later on, we're also going to be talking about what it's like dealing with a construction project in these difficult times if you've had to shut your project down because of the coronavirus, which is happening to a lot of people around the world. I was going to say around the country, but of course this is happening to a lot of people around the world. So if you've got any questions, because this is going to be, I'm going to do a live Q&A at the end of this. So if you've got any questions, next to your comment button, there's a little square with a question mark in it. And if you tap that, you can ask us a question. And at about 9 o'clock-ish, we will open the floor up and open up to a Q&A. So you can ask us live questions about any issues that you're having, not only about projects that have shut down, but just in general about any projects that you're on. How do you feel about that, Rena?
Yeah, that's good. I'm
Yeah.
happy to talk about it. There's lots going on.
Well, of course you're used to this, because I mean you've taught, you've been at Grand Designs Live before, you've been on stage. I saw you there with Karen, the editor of Grand Designs magazine, and you were even though I think you thought you were a bit nervous, you seemed great. You were fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. That's really kind. I felt I had the whole heart palpitations then. This is easier because
Yeah.
I can only see you and I can't see anyone else.
No, I guess so. Yeah, I get that's the thing, is that because even though this is meant to be Grand Designs Live at home, it's not quite the, when you walk out there and you see everybody staring at you, it can be a little bit daunting sometimes, can't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I mean, it's 20 past, so we can start. So all I've got to do is I forgot to do a bit of housekeeping here, so I'm just going to pin a comment, if I can manage to do that, which is telling you all about what we're going to be talking about today. So we are, as I've said, talking about not only Rena's project, but also projects that are shut down, projects that have had to be closed, because although, you know, lots of us are in lockdown, you know, lots of our projects are also in shutdown. So we're going to be talking about that as well. And as I said earlier, if you just joined us, if you have any questions, just use the little square box which has got a question mark in it just next to your comment box, and you can ask this question, and in about half an hour, 40 minutes, we'll go through those and start answering, so you'll be able to see exactly, you know, get some advice from the horse's mouth, as it were. So Rena, look, tell us a little bit, for those of you, and I'm sure most of the people here know who you are, but for a little bit, for the people that don't, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am a mum of three. They're my kind of main priority. I've got three little girls. So I'm a stay-at-home mum, but around that I work as an interior blogger, and I write for Grand Designs, and I create content on Instagram, working with lots of different brands, all to do with interior design. Everything's just interiors and interior design.
Okay. And the name of for those that don't know, the name of your website is?
Hugar for home. And I've been told by my Danish friend that the word Hugar, the emphasis on the gar, so it's Hugar. No one can say it right. No,
and that's kind of why I asked you to say the name of your website, because I always mispronounce that word. So I thought that I'd let you.
Most people say Higgy.
Yeah, Higgy or Hoogie, yeah, or Hugar. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So look, so you're a mum of three. You're in the middle, or towards the end, but you're in the midst of a self-build Grand Design project, which you're documenting in Grand Designs magazine. But how did you get started? Where did you start?
So we had lived in our Victorian terrace for about 7 years, and that was our first house. We had two of our girls, well, we had all three there. And once we had the third, we just kind of outgrew it really quickly. And it was always our first house. So it was always on the cards that hopefully in the future we could kind of, you know, upsize. Yeah. And then when we started looking for a property, the kind of jump from, I like period properties, but the jump from like a, you know, terrace to a semi-detached period property was quite significant. So we just thought, let's, you know, look a bit wider than just period properties, and we just ended up with something that I never thought we would, which was a 1960s bungalow.
So when you embarked on this self-build journey, thinking of, you know, were you thinking of a grand design, or you know, were you always buying something that you were going to either renovate or knock down and build, or were you also looking for just, you know, a finished home?
So we were definitely looking for a doer-upper, but nothing to the scale of what we've ended up with. So our Victorian terrace that we bought, you know, we bought that up and did that as well, but we only had to do kind of internal structural work. So it wasn't like a big budget build, you know, it only took a couple of months. This time we knew we wanted to do something a bit bigger, but we thought we'd end up with a property we could live in while we renovated, and it was going to be, you know, kind of a ground floor extension, maybe a loft conversion, but we somehow ended up with the bungalow, and we knocked down every wall apart from three. Okay. So yeah.
Well, I mean, that's fantastic. And when I do apologise. I am learning how to use this. So
it's the first time.
So it is our first time, isn't it? It is our first time. So you're learning along with us. But, you know, were you a fan of Grand Designs? Had you been to the show before?
Me and my husband are huge fans of Grand Designs. We've watched it for years, and we've never been to the show because we'd never been in that position. It wasn't kind of, you know, something that was even, we didn't ever think, we'd never dreamed that it would actually happen and that we could end up doing something like this.
So for everybody who's watching, I've just put up a photo of, well, Rena, I'll let you explain what that photo is of.
So that's the front elevation of the bungalow we bought. pre the renovation starting.
Yeah. So look, I mean, I don't mean to be rude, but that is not. That's not the sort of you don't look at that and think, yes, that's where I'm going to live for the rest of my life with my 3 children, is it? It doesn't really say that.
No, it's so this was, I call this our ugly duckling.
Okay.
And but when you go round to the back, what we fell in love with was actually the garden and the plot, and that's something that was what was really special about this property.
Right.
Something that we just hadn't come across with anything else we'd viewed. So the property is kind of like really sheltered. There's just trees everywhere, and at the back of the garden there's a little stream at the bottom of the garden, and a horse's paddock, and the horses come down to the bottom of the stream. And I mean, this is urban though. It's an urban, it's an urban street. It's in Cardiff, and but it's the closest to the country we would ever get while still being in the city.
Yeah. And how important is it that you have that kind of imagination when you're embarking on this kind of project, grand design, or buying a new home? Because it feels like you as I said, that was not being rude, but that was not the most amazing looking house. But you obviously saw past that, and you saw all these other things.
I think that maybe it's because me and my husband, we have always loved grand designs and loved watching it. And I think that with my career now in interiors, I think it's about not fearing a property like that, and being able to visualize potential. I didn't straight away see the end vision, but I just knew that I knew so much. There could be so much that could be done to it. It could have gone lots of different ways.
And how much of being able to do what you just said is about kind of focusing on a few key aspirations? You said you've got 3 kids. You talked about the ponies, and I've got 2 girls as well. They would love that. I mean, was that how important is it that you focus on some really key things that you want?
So that bungalow, I've said it a lot on my Instagram, if anyone here follows me on there, that it was very much bought for them. So that bungalow was bought for the vision and everything we wanted out of life and the way we want to live our life. It's all centered around the 3 little ones, and it was all about them playing in the garden at the in the stream at the bottom, with the horses there. And one thing that some people might know, is that we're very familiar with the area because my mum lives 2 doors away.
Oh wow!
So my little brothers and sisters have grown up playing in that stream, and that stream is has so much meaning.
Yeah.
It means a lot to me. So for our daughters to have that, it was for them really. This is all. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Just quickly, just a bit of housekeeping. Thank you for all you that people have just joined us. Just to let you know, we're having a live Q&A at the end of the session. So if you've got a question, I've seen a few questions come up in the comments, but if you've got a question, if you could just use the little box with a question mark in it just to the right-hand side of your comment box, then that will go into the Q&A session at the end of this. But so Rena, so you found the plot, and you've been building, but obviously right at the moment there's not much going on, I assume, is there?
Well, yeah, they're kind of there is and there is and there isn't. So the construction kind of industry in the UK haven't been told to really stop, and so our builders, within social distancing rules, they've been able to carry on a little bit, but because they're at the stage now where we're plastering and boarding, so there's only ever 2 people at site maximum, from what I know, because I've been going up there. But loads of other things have, there's lots of delays, so we can't do the staircase. The kitchen's been delayed, so it's lots of the suppliers. They're all on lockdown.
Yeah, and I've just put a picture up of your build team. If you can see that, it was great. But look, I mean, that's one of the issues that I think a lot of builders and construction companies are having. Whilst the government has told them to keep going, it's not always safe, and it's not always possible because some of the bigger material suppliers aren't even supplying materials to to smaller builds anymore. It's difficult to get things. So, I mean, have you found that to be a problem as well?
So I think because of the stage that we've got to in the project, and because there was talk of this lockdown in the media and on the news, a good couple of weeks, before our builder managed to kind of get a step ahead and get the things needed for the interim. So for now, because we're on the plastering and boarding stage, we've been okay. But I can imagine if you're like more kind of midway through the build or at the start, I can imagine it's probably really difficult.
And I mean, one of the things, I have a lot of questions over the last few days about what we should be doing, how what people should do if they have to, shut down, if their builders aren't able to operate. And I think the advice I've been giving people is, in times, you've just got to sit down and talk to them, have a conversation, and try and figure out a way around this problem that works for both parties.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But obviously you seem to, I mean, maybe because you were a bit further on, you seem to have kind of been able to get past that problem.
Yeah, I think that where we've been lucky, I guess, is that we haven't had to navigate our way around the construction team, because they've got their materials and they've got what they need, but they can only go so far. So the past week we've had no work happening at site, because our contractor is a main contractor. Ours isn't his only project, and because what he needs to do at ours is so minimal, I'm guessing he's putting his efforts into other properties. And to be honest, it's because we can't have the staircase and the kitchen's delayed. There isn't a whole lot that they could do anyway until that's done.
So even though, I mean, that's a good point. I hadn't really thought about that. So even though your builders can carry on working or are happy to do so, you're having problems elsewhere with other things, kitchens and
and that impacts on what they can do and in what order.
Yeah.
So that's been more of the timeline management for us.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, look, you're getting through it, and of course, again, if anybody there has got a job and is on hold at the moment because of the virus and they're worried about it, as again, ask us a question. So just use that little square box with the question mark in it next to your comments, and we'll answer those afterwards. But let's go back to the beginning. So you found this, as you said, an ugly duckling cottage, but it's got a stream and horses at the end of it. So that's fantastic. Did it have planning when you bought it?
So no, there was no planning permission with it, and we knew from the start that planning was going to be, a difficult thing, because the bungalow came with a twist, which is that it's a backland development. So it's a bungalow that was built in the back garden of a bungalow in the 60s, and it won on appeal. So the local planning authority refused it. So we knew straight away that they would have their backups with any development. So we had to do a lot of things first. We had to check there was no covenants on it. We had to check that there's nothing in the law that said it could never be a two-story building. So that was the biggest thing for us. We knew we had to increase the footprint because it was only a small kind of 2-bed bungalow, but the only way we could do that would be to go up. So the planning from the start
So it was a 2-bed bungalow. You bought it without planning, but I mean, look, to some people that might be seen as a huge risk, but it sounds like you mitigated that risk to a certain extent, as much as you could.
Well, so how we did that was, anyone is allowed to do pre-planning. So anyone is allowed to go through the pre-planning process. We were hoping we could just call the planning department and have a conversation, get some feedback, but you just can't do that. They are absolutely flat out, especially in a city. So we had to go through the pre-planning process. And what we had to do is we had to run the pre-planning process at the same time as the conveyancing period, because we had to know if they were saying no to a second floor, we could not buy that property. And it was only about 2 days before we were set to complete, we got that news. So if 2 days before, and we'd already spent money on a design to put in with pre-planning, had conversations with architects. So it was a property that we were so committed to, we spent a lot of money before even owning it. which, yeah, it's quite
Well,
unusual.
it is unusual. Now, I mean, you said that you went through this pre-planning process before you completed on the property, but had you exchanged contracts before that?
No.
Oh, you hadn't. So it was
No.
a simultaneous exchange and complete. So you could have actually just pulled out of the whole deal, having lost the bit. Right. Okay, fine. That makes more sense. And
yeah, we had to have a safety net.
And interesting, when you were looking for the house, and I think this is key for lots of our, the budding grand designers out there. Did you look for just land as well? Were you looking for a plot of land, or did you only look at land that had houses on them already?
No, we didn't look at plots of land. We were only looking, at houses with properties already, on them, because we knew that we didn't have the budget to, do a complete self-build.
Yeah. And that's fantastic. So if you bought that, you've got the house, you weren't looking just at land, you look at what was part of the reason that you were looking for houses, or something with a house already on it, was because you felt it's probably easier to get planning to make a house bigger than maybe it would be if you had just a plot of land to get a house in the first place?
Yeah, I think there was quite a few limitations in that 2 out of 3 of our daughters were already in school. So you're so limited because you have to be within catchment area. So it was only certain streets, even a radius of an area that we could even look in. So I feel like we hit the jackpot with this. Other people will think that this whole thing is just I don't know, a disaster, or just something they would never do or never think of.
Well, no, do you know what? I think, and that's the beauty of Grand Designs Live and also things like this, is because people need to hear the real stories behind what people have done. Because a lot of the reason people think, oh, I'd never do that, is because they've not heard many stories of people actually going through a process and understanding that there can be a positive outcome. And I think your point about, I think it was very smart actually to buy a house, do some research at the beginning. As a developer, you call that this planning risk, but you mitigated that. And what you were quite cleverly did was only make sure that you didn't exchange and complete before you got your planning permission, which is
Oh, it just someone just asked in the comments about if I had a plan B, and if we had no plan B. So we had to, or we had to know the answer to one crucial question, which was, can we have a first floor?
Yeah,
that's what we needed from pre-planning, because the feedback we had on our design was that they actually didn't like it, and they said 2 days before they told us that they didn't like it. They wouldn't be happy with that. It was too big. The scale of it was just too much. We hired a planning consultant there and then.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, I mean, you've done a real, professional developer's job. A planning consultant as well. Fantastic. And how do you find your planning consultant?
So that was through the architect. So at first, the architect that we had to involve from the start, because we were going through a pre-planning process and we were complete newbies, we didn't have a clue where to start. We sought the advice from an architect, which, was kind of in every grand design, it'll say, speak to an architect. And so we were following their advice. And because we were within the kind of boundaries of X meters away, the privacy, those key things, and outlooks, he was kind of confident that we could put this pre-planning app in and there shouldn't really be any major problems. There was, because actually the historic planning issue of that whole bungalow did have an impact. So then he said to us, right, you need a planning consultant. And it was only because of our planning consultant that he could have the dialogue with the planners that we got to where we got to.
That's fantastic. And so I think what's really great about that is it's a real indication to people what you can do. And it may seem like you're taking big risks, but what you did was, along the way, you seem to have mitigated all of these risks and improve your chances of a positive outcome, or the outcome that you wanted. Now, we've got a question here. I didn't go to this just because it's relevant to what you were just talking about from Rosie Rocks, who said, which is actually, Rosie, that's a good question, because that was going to be my next question for Rina. How did you find your architect?
So recommendation. Yeah. So we knew we wanted someone local because we knew that we had to use a local architect who knew how Cardiff planning, the local planning authority worked,
Okay.
or even knew people who worked there. And I was one of my friends who is a landscape architect. Does a lot of projects for the architect, and so we purely went on that. Yeah, which I felt really comfortable with, because I was actually really overwhelmed at the start, and we met 3 different people at the property, and I just didn't kind of click with anyone, and then I was getting really panicked about how am I supposed to choose an architect.
Yeah.
So.
And were you? I mean, I'm assuming. I shouldn't assume it. I should ask you. Were you always thinking that you would choose an architect? Was that always part of the plan?
Yeah, definitely. Because again, myself and Matt were not kind of, when we weren't fully immersed in this world at that point. And that kind of that bungalow, the picture you showed earlier, we knew what we wanted, but we didn't know how to achieve that. And an architect is the only person that could look at that ugly duckling and show us exactly how to bring it to life.
And I'm going to try and show a picture. I think I've got one of your architect's drawings, but I can't see. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm blocking most of it. Now, is that the rear elevation?
So that's actually the front elevation.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, and that wasn't our initial intention. We had double-story house, but planning wanted to, even though it's behind the road and the street of bungalows, they wanted it to retain a bungalow feel from the front, and they wanted to reduce the mass of it. So they said that we couldn't have a full first floor.
Okay.
So, we wanted the existing footprint, we just wanted to build on top. We wanted to do 0 groundworks, just build exactly the same on top, but they just weren't having any of that. So they said we had to scale it back. So that's why we've ended up with this kind of shape. It just reduces the volume, really.
Yeah. And so this drawing, beautiful drawing, by the way, is was this the design that the planners 2 days before said they didn't like, or was this changed after?
No, yeah, this was what we put in for the full planning permission. Okay. So I'm yet to share our original kind of plan, but I am going to.
Is it twice as big as this with a helicopter pad on top or something? Is that what it's too big?
It's not that extravagant, but
it's not. I think I've got that's the front. I think I've got the rear. Now that's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah. So all the drama of this building is at the back. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful, and kind of quite modern, but yeah, it seems to fit, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was kind of, so I'm really inspired. Huga for Home, which is my Instagram, is it's Huga is Danish, and I love Danish and Scandinavian design, and I wanted this whole kind of like woodland cabin in the woods.
Yeah.
So that was the driving kind of design principle for what we wanted.
Okay, I'm just going to show another picture because so that people can see the situation. Oh God, again, I'm blocking. Sorry about that. But where my head is where Rina's house is. But you can see. I mean, that is. I mean, you said it's quite urban, but there's a lot of trees, a lot of green, so fits very well.
This side here, where the line ends.
Yeah.
Well, not where the line ends. Where the front of the house is here, that is the main busy road.
Oh wow! Okay.
That leads you straight to the motorway. Okay,
so it is, good communication networks, which is always good, isn't it?
Yeah, but it is city.
Yeah. So okay, you've got your design, you got through planning. I mean, you and Matt must have been high-fiving each other, getting your planning decision 2 days before you exchange and complete. I can imagine.
Well, it was actually just the complete opposite, because we were really happy that they hadn't said no to a first floor, but then we were like, well, we were totally, you know, we were back to the drawing board with the design, and we had both completely fallen head over heels in love with this first design that the architect presented us with. And I'd given him like a 25-page brief of everything I wanted, you know, from it internally, and how I wanted to move around spaces, how I wanted kind of layouts, and he ticked every single box. So we were like, right, he said no to that design. They said, yes, we can have a first floor. And we were just like, but we don't understand. What does that even look like? We couldn't get our head around it.
And that's why you have a good architect.
Yeah.
I'm sure they explained that to you, did they?
Well, then we had to go back to, because we had to go back to the drawing board, you know, the architect needed time. So the architect needed, you know, I think we spent another 4 to 6 weeks redesigning, going through another design process.
Fantastic. And then you got, you know, to the place that you wanted. Okay, so you know you've got your planning now, which is fantastic. You've got the house, you've completed and exchanged on it. Did you ever live in the house as it was, or?
No.
Oh, you didn't?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, because we knew straight away that just from the first design, and then we knew that it just wouldn't be a property we could actually live in.
Okay.
Because the whole roof needed to come off, and the inside as well, a lot of walls had to be knocked down. So we went from our house we sold straight into rented.
Yeah. So the big question, you know, one of the biggest single decision anybody will make on a grand design or otherwise as to whether it's successful is the builder, the contractors. How did you go about choosing, you know, who to entrust with your dreams?
So I'd got to kind of that you know, stage of my life where I had, you know, I'd got married, I had little ones, and lots of my friends were in the same stage, or you know, but had done builds, had done more work on their houses than we had on ours, and they'd used a local builder, and when we did our renovation in our like little terraced cottage that we had, we got 3 quotes, including the one that had come recommended. Didn't go with him. We went for the cheapest, and we got burnt big time, and we had cowboy builders, and it was a disaster. So we knew for this build, we did something unconventional again, which you probably wouldn't advise anyone, but we knew from the start we were only using one builder, so we didn't go out to tender, and we didn't get 3 quotes.
Well, do you know what? I was just smiling then because big friend of Grand Design Show, Andy Stevens TV, has just sent me a message saying, no, I should be asking him how to choose a builder, but you're right. I would not normally say choose, you know, go to one builder, except, and those of you who know me and see me at Grand Design's Live will know that there are lots of caveats to what I say. So I do say something and then tend to, at the end, have a caveat that says the opposite. But I think if you know a builder and you trust them, and you believe that they will do the job that you want them to do, I don't think that, you know, there is any harm in necessarily sitting down with them and explaining, especially if you can be honest with them about your budget and just say, look, this is what we've got to you know, to do this project. Is that the kind of process you went through, rather than a traditional kind of going out to tender and going out to 3 or 4 builders?
Yes, we did, but the kind of, I guess there was a lot of unknowns with our build, so it was kind of we didn't know straight away some big things that would need doing. So the original quote, you know, has gone up since then, but it's been such like kind of an organic process that we knew that we needed more money from the start of the project. So we've always been kind of it hasn't come as a surprise that we've ended up spending what we have.
And again, I'm blocking the best part of the photo. I'm blocking you now, Rena. Right. But again, look, what the audience probably can't see is that you are, you know, you're having a lot of fun. You're smiling at this point, looking at the plans. You know, I would say I've been involved in lots of jobs, big, small, and otherwise. The best jobs are always the ones where you work in partnership with the builders,
Yeah.
And clients. So I think you've done a great thing. It's fantastic. So you found the builder. How did you set the budget? Actually, interesting.
So we this is where we were just a little bit naive and a little bit like, I guess, like renovation rookies, if that's even a word. Yeah.
Sounds like a TV show.
Yeah, I know, exactly. We didn't have a clue, to be honest. It was all just based on what we had in the bank, really, and about kind of we did do a budget spreadsheet, and we did talk to the builder, and we did have an idea of costs, but we kind of wanted to do it on what we had and what we knew we could get. But again, we've ended up spending more. But I haven't seen any grand designs where they don't end up spending more.
Yeah, no, yeah, neither have I. I don't know what happened to those episodes. But well, look, the problem is that building a home is difficult. It's not easy, and there's so much risk and there's so much uncertainty there. So it's very difficult, I think, from the beginning to say this is exactly what it's going to be.
I think you have to kind of just overestimate on everything.
Yeah.
And I don't think you're never going to come out winning. You're never going to spend less. You're always going to spend more. It's just, you've got to know that if you're going to be in a situation where you're going to be spending more, you need to know that you're going to be able to get that money or be able to pay it back quickly, or you need to just have a plan. I think you need to have some kind of financial security to do a project like this.
And on that note, did you have a contingency when you set your budget?
Oh yeah, that went out the window many months ago.
Did it? Okay.
Yeah, the contingency. Yeah. So, and I think it's because as well, like, when I think just some of the things that I like, not really understanding from the start how expensive they would be.
Yeah.
Like materials,
What was the biggest shock when you were going through your process? Is there anything that you thought, God, I really didn't think that was going to cost that?
Yeah, our corrugated steel tin roof. It's ridiculous. It's one of the cheapest materials you can use.
Sorry, is that for the scaffold?
Corrugated steel.
What did you use
for the roof?
For your roof is made of corrugated steel for the house? Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like a tin roof?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've used that on half the building. We wanted it on all of the building, but planning made us reduce the height. So the pitch of the roof went from pitch to flat. So we had to use single ply membrane. But the ground floor elevation, front elevation you showed earlier, has got a wrinkly tin roof, and that only costs about £9. Meter. But to install it, that's been just a massive cost.
And I mean, it's really difficult, isn't it? So you're working with your builder. The builder comes to you and says, "Look, this is going to be a lot more, or more than you thought it was." I mean, what do there's some schools of thoughts. You say, "Well, no, I'm sorry. You agreed a price. That's it. You've got to do it." Or it sounds like you work more in partnership with your build team.
Yeah, very much. So from the start, the builder made it very clear the things that he was pricing for and what his quote included. And his quote has come bang on for everything, every single thing he was, responsible for and that he quoted for. He's been the same price. There were 3 things that he couldn't quote for, and those things we had to get. The construction of the first floor was made from a timber frame, and that was made off-site. And the sewerage, because there was an existing cesspit at the property, and then the tin roof. So we knew that those 3 things, weren't going to be him. Yeah. But we hadn't got to a stage in the build when he started work where we'd had time to find out what all that cost.
Right.
And it was a lot.
It was a lot. Yeah. Bit of a shock.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit of a shock. Yeah. Brilliant. So look, we're getting lots of interactions on the
Yeah.
comments and stuff, which is fantastic, and lots of love hearts as well. I assume, Rena, they're for you though. That's fantastic. So look, if you do have questions, we've got about 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and we're going into the Q&A. So if you do have any questions, please use the little square box with a question mark in it next to your comment box. And Andy Stevens TV, yes, I do know. I thought I said friend of the show, not fan of the show. So he's getting annoyed that he thinks I don't remember him. Andy, he works with us at Grand Design Live and does lots of amazing talks on how to get the best out of your builders. And luckily, but really, you didn't need that, did you? So you got the best. So look, I've got some photos actually. I think we should probably go through a few photos, and then we can get to the end. That's you, and again, I'm blocking one of your children and half of your husband, but that's you guys. Is that quite recent then? Because that looks like you're in the house.
Yeah, that's really recent. I think that was taken about 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago maybe. Yeah, so that was kind of the week that we were watertight. So the front door is the side where the side extension is, and that was the last thing that they did.
Yeah. So ignoring coronavirus, if we can, for a moment, when would you have been in?
At the end of May.
Okay, but that's going to extend a little bit more, is it? That's going to. You're not.
Yeah, I think that it's going to extend in the same way as lockdown, which is we have no idea. We literally have no idea. No idea when lockdown's ending. No idea when our new completion date is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More photos. That is amazing. That looks like to me the first floor. Is that? Am I right? Or...
That's the first floor, and we put our bedroom in there. So I was, really adamant that no matter what, on the first floor we were having our bedroom there, and I wanted it to feel like a tree house up there.
Yeah.
And that's why we put in the floor to ceiling glass.
That is beautiful, and I'm going to get a bit geeky now. Tell me about those. Are they? They look like sliding doors. Are they?
Yeah.
They slide open. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can see the black line going across the second row of windows.
Okay. Yeah.
That's glass outside, to stop you falling out. So the doors open halfway across.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. And when you were doing this, were there any things that you had to scale back on because of budget? And what were the things, if any, that you thought to yourself, look, I am not compromising on these? What were those things?
So I guess that the biggest thing that we didn't compromise on, and it was probably maybe the biggest single cost in the build, is the windows that you're looking at there in the pictures. So I wanted, they're crystal style windows with the architectural glazing. Some people, like on my Instagram, when I put a vote out about do I go plain or do I, have the glazing bars, lots of people would have, with this house spent a lot less and had just plain glass. But I really wanted to do something architectural with the windows.
Yeah.
So, and I liked,
No, sorry. I said I think that you're right to do that. You're right to pick 2 or 3 or however many you can afford things and not compromise. Because I think they're absolutely stunning.
Thank you.
And it does actually look like you are in the middle of a forest. You're not quite in the middle of a forest, though.
No. It's a 5-minute walk, and then you are actually in a forest.
Yeah, but it's great, and that's a great. I think that's a great pointer to anybody, because there'll be people now who are at home watching us or otherwise thinking about their builds and looking, and we've all done this, haven't we? You go through the spreadsheet and you've got to shave off X%, and you take things out, and it's about choosing and trying to figure out what you should pull back on and what you shouldn't. And did you go through that kind of process at all?
I think that we have, in terms of interior wise, probably not, because with the interior design, that's one of my biggest, that's my job and what I do. So it's really hard for me to compromise on how I want that to look and feel.
Yeah.
But exterior wise, it's
Yeah.
more about knowing that because we've gone over budget, we can't have the house all done and the garden. So we bought the house for the garden, but like most people, we can't now get the garden done as well. Yeah.
But I think that what you did was the right thing. And it's funny, actually, Kevin always says that when you, I'm not misquoting him here, but he always says, if you have to look at budgets, make sure you spend the money on the fabric of the building, the stuff that makes the building, the insulation, the doors, the windows, the roof. Things like your kitchen, your bathroom, you can put those in later, or in your case, like your garden. You can just do that at a later point, can't you?
And actually, on the point that you've just made, that is exactly what we've done with this house. The fabric of the building, we have gone all out. So, with the windows, the kind of architectural glazing, crystal style windows are far more expensive than, just plain glass. And the other thing where we haven't compromised is the cladding. So I don't know if you've got a picture of the exterior cladding, but we could have painted our house black. Some people still ask, is it painted? But it isn't. So the external cladding, every single piece of wood has been burnt and scorched.
Is that the cladding there I'm looking at?
That's the roof.
That's the roof, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's black, isn't it? Even I know that. Yes, the burnt cladding. Now, I believe that has a special Japanese name, which I can never pronounce. I hope you can.
Yes. Well, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but I think it's Shosugiban.
So Shoshugiban, I will take that. I will take that. Shoshugiban.
Yeah.
And actually, it's a really interesting way, an ancient Japanese way of preserving wood to use in buildings, isn't it? So it's but then produces this beautiful finish. And again, was that something that was more expensive than? I mean, would it have been easier to buy sort of painted timber to clad that building?
Yeah, I don't know the cost difference, but this is more expensive. This is probably about £100. It's a square meter, isn't it? And it, so I don't know how much it would be to paint, but the difference with this is it's one of those costs where it costs you more to start, but it costs you less overall because we don't need to do anything to this for 100 years.
Yeah. And also, it looks good.
Yeah, it looks amazing. Yeah, and
it looks good.
Zero maintenance, though. I think that's the way forward.
That's great. Yeah. So I think, so look, we've got loads of questions coming in already. I'm going to switch to questions just after I've done a kind of partial reveal and show you the latest photo that I've got of Rena's house. So again, guys, please use the little square next to your comment box. It's a little square with a question mark in it. Leave us a question and we'll get to them as soon as we can. So I believe that this is that the latest picture that you've sent us?
Yes, that was taken just, I think, probably about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, that looks like, I don't know, it will be. I'm just going to say that looks like it should be in the pages of brand designs. I'm sure it will be because, I know you're doing your, but it's absolutely beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, like I feel like, it's not the biggest house in the world, but I think it's what you do with it.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
No, exactly. Right. I think, Rena, should we take some questions now? I think it's about that time. Let's have a look if I can do this, if I don't mess this up. Okay, so I've got some questions here. Right. There we go. I'm going to put this up. Does this work? Okay. So this is from Border Build. Hi, is there anything you would change? This is from Gemma in Mid Wales.
Hi Gemma. I am really in love with it now, and I don't think I would change anything to this build. But if I could go, back in time, and planning would have said yes to the first design, I would still have loved that, but that was never going to happen. But on this build here now, no, I don't think I would change anything.
Okay. I've got another question here.
Yeah.
Is there a spare bedroom for your little sister?
That is my sister.
Oh, that is your sister. Yeah. Do you have? I'm sure she already knows the answer to that. Do you have a spare room for your little sister?
I've already told her no.
Okay, fine. So she's being a bit cheeky there, trying to
Yeah.
slip in and get me to let me
Yeah.
get you to answer. Um, oh, hi guys, amazing job so far. Well done. Where did you compromise? And that's Nick. So,
Yeah.
Rena, I don't know if you know Nick. Nick is famously was on the show with his twin brother and built two houses next to each other in
Yeah.
Sheffield, I think it was. And Nick, if I've got that wrong, I'm really sorry. But and I met them, had the pleasure to meet them and spend a day or so with them at the live show last year, and they're fantastic. And it was a fantastic build. But
Yeah.
yes, Nick's asked you, where did you compromise?
That's one of my favourite Grand Design houses ever.
Oh, you know what? I can imagine that they're at home now, absolutely high-fiving each other. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that I'm not. I'd say that one of my most difficult traits, I guess, is I'm not great at compromising. So with this build, I think that I feel like the build is again compromised because we didn't get to do exactly what we wanted. So
Yeah.
because of that, I've been really trying to protect wherever I can
Yeah.
the things I wanted. So we've done compromises we couldn't afford to put those architectural glazed, crystal style windows. We couldn't have that throughout the build. So we've picked the three main windows, and then the rest of the windows we have gone for just plain glass. And I think that as much as I wanted lots of glass to this build, and we have added a lot, we could have done things a bit more extravagant with the windows. Like we could have had a whole glass roof on the side extension, things like that. But I really maybe not even a compromise, it's just knowing when to stop.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think that's an important thing, because sometimes I found when you're with clients and when you're doing builds yourself, actually being reined in by your budget actually makes you think more creatively and think in a better way. I'm going to ask this question because this is Andy's question. What are the biggest things which will slow down us trades going back to work? I think, Andy, the first things, I think there's going to be this kind of pent up, almost latent demand for building once this is all done, because not only are people midway through jobs, but there are people who are still going to want extensions, bigger kitchens, lofts, even basements. So there is going to be that. I think the problem going back is how many it's going to be, if there are enough builders left after this lockdown. I mean, it is it's terrible out there at the moment for construction companies. For ones, they're not covered by many of these breaks that the governments are giving them. So the question is, when it all finishes, how many of them are going to be left? And the ones that do come back, I mean, what financial shape are they going to be in? I know there's lots of stories out there about cowboy builders, but being a builder, having a construction company is expensive to get back to work. And if you've spent, let's just hope it's no more than a month or so, but if you spent a month or so somehow trying to tread water commercially, the biggest problem is going to be having the funds when everybody goes back to normal again, I think. So yeah, it's a worrying time, but fingers crossed, it'll be quite quick and we can get through it. There you go. There's a question for you about your garden. From Matt.
Hi, Matt. Do you have January's issue of Grand Designs? Because in that issue, my renovation diary was all about the plans for the garden. But in short, where you see the back of the house here, the rear elevation, we're just going to keep it kind of, really simple. We want the whole indoors, outdoors blend. So we would love to have maybe an outdoor kitchen, some decking, a tree house for the girls. I'd love a garden office, barbecue. I want the garden to work hard. and have, you know, lots of areas to relax in.
Well, that's a great idea for a garden. But you said earlier, I think, that you're going to have to wait a little bit for that. Is that right?
Yes, yeah. I think that where you see the back of the house there, the doors slide open in either direction. So we're going to have to do the decking so that there's something to walk out onto. But I think in terms of outdoor kitchens and the garden office, that'll come much later down the line. So for now, it's just having decking and lawn. So the garden plans, we went all out. We've had them all done, so we can start saving, making plans. But we've now stripped them back. And the landscape architect, we've now got a phase 1. So phase 1 is just, you know, having everything around the house that is usable, so you can walk on it without it being a mud bath. But that's as far as it will go.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
I've got a question from Julia Alexander here for you, Rena. Rena, what's the plan for your internal style?
I've been working on the interior design for this house for it'll be over a year and a half now. So the you know, the plan is that I want it to be kind of a very calm space. It's going to have limited materials, so I'm sticking to kind of 3 key materials, which is wood, steel and concrete, which you've got materials on the exterior there. That kind of transitions inside. So I want it to be a house that reflects the kind of woodlands around it, and it's like pared back, Scandi inspired, but also rustic.
So pared back, Scandi inspired, but rustic.
Yes.
Oh, fantastic! I mean, that sounds brilliant. I've got another question here, which is one. Oh, that's not work. Oh, it has worked. Have you chosen your kitchen colour yet?
So I'm assuming this question is about the kitchen cabinets.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've been having a kind of drama publicly on my Instagram about do I go for a dark kitchen or a light kitchen? So in my old house, I had a pale grey kitchen. And in this house, I have actually gone for a black kitchen. So I've decided, and it's going to, I know, I'm still like nervous, but I wanted, when you're inside our house, you know, we're never going to get to appreciate, you know, the black kind of burnt wood on the outside. We're never going to, you know, see that when we're inside. So I wanted to have a nod to the exterior internally. So I've settled on a black kitchen.
Now that is an interesting choice. What are you doing in terms of worktop? I mean, is it all black, or is there any contrast in there?
The kitchen's actually really beautiful because it's wood, and it's just kind of got a black stain, and it's very kind of earthy and natural looking. It's not like this kind of black and too harsh. It's very soft. It doesn't sound soft, but it's going to have concrete worktops, but it's not brutalist. It's going to be softened because I'm going to have open shelving. Lighting design is a big thing for me, and I love texture. So I'm going to make, you know, something that you would think would be quite cold, really warm. Yeah, it's going to be cozy.
Yeah. So